Good afternoon, Oakland and beyond. Hope y'all are doing fine out there. Just trying to combat things and obviously get by with life as it is, having to deal with this virus and all sorts of other stuff out there. And we welcome you to the very first broadcast from the new Dub 6 studios located up in the Eastmont Hills overlooking the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum and the rest of what's known as the Deep East, the greater East Oakland area and beyond. Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. It is show number 272 of A's Fan Radio. What's going on, everybody? It is the legally 5150 Corporal Rifled Asshole. Hope you all are doing very well on this fine September Friday afternoon. First Friday of the month out there, so try not to be too chaotic on this first Friday out there. I'm kind of probably speaking to a brick wall at this point with the way people are in this town. Probably will end up being some sort of shenanigans going on at some point in the evening, not too far from where I'm at right now here at the studio. Another Friday out there. Hope everybody's doing great and looking forward to recapping the last 2 weeks worth of Oakland Athletics baseball. As of course, we haven't done a show since August 21st. Boss had some things come up with work and all that last week, and also had some stuff come up again. So I'll be hosting this show solo for you all today. Kind of the usual shenanigans, little brief 10-second breaks, because I'm not trying to bother with throwing in the commercials and the music and all that, since I'm having to upload these up to YouTube right now. The Wi-Fi will finally be installed, though, by the time everything is said and done and this is uploaded. So we'll be ready to go, hopefully as planned and normal, when we come at you with show number 273 next week. So the second broadcast will hopefully be the return to normal for things with this show. But if not, obviously, as you all seen, we've figured out ways to adapt and still do this show since the shortened 2020 season started. Just obviously took us a while to figure out how to do some things and get some stuff done, but have gotten around it, gotten into that point, and just been great to still finally get back at you and do some shows. But before we get into looking back at things over the last 2 weeks, one thing real quickly wanted to touch on, and obviously the individual that this show is dedicated to this week is a very close friend of everyone, especially in the Bleacher family, and just anyone that was a regular out at the ballpark. And of course, us learning the unfortunate news during the A's Angels series of the passing of Roy Byrd, who, of course, many of you know was a longtime security guard at Oakland A's games, usually worked over there in the left field bleachers, roughly about trying to remember the exact sections, about 134, 135 ish, basically where a lot of the left field crew pretty much has hung out over the years. Roy was a guy that, obviously if you were regular at the ballpark, you'd recognize who he was, know who he was right away. Somebody that if you saw him on a regular basis and talked to him on a regular basis, more often than not would actually spot you before you would spot him. And Roy was also one of those individuals that, someone like me and a lot of you out there as well probably had run-ins with outside of the ballpark. I know I did, but probably, I want to say probably up until maybe about a month before we all got the news of him passing away. I probably would run into him, I'd say maybe once every couple of weeks. Just I'd be out and about doing something somewhere in Oakland, San Leandro, General East Bay vicinity, and just out of the blue, I'd run into him just, walking down the street at the store, grabbing something real quick. And, a lot of those times when I'd run into him, he'd spot me before I'd even, notice he was there. And just it would always be great running into him, chopping it up about what was going on with the A's, what was going on with other stuff. Picking my brain, obviously, like a lot of others out there do, trying to get what little stuff I knew about the ballpark at the time, info at the time, and just it was always great, having conversations and running into people like Roy, and also sharing that mutual connection as well of being a military vet as well. Really never delved too much into Roy's background with his military experience. We had little ones and twos conversations, but never really delved too much into anything. But just was always great. Like I said, either seeing him at the ballpark or just running into him out and about in Oakland or out and about in the East Bay, and just was very unfortunate to hear and see that news when it came down. Was shocked, as many of you out there were when we heard that. And again, just another great longtime fixture and soul and flame that many of us have known for years at the ballpark that have has been put out. But obviously, with all the lives that he touched over the years, his memory will live on for many, many years to come. And our condolences to Roy's family out there. Definitely hope that all of y'all are doing well and hanging in there, especially with these troubled and crazy times that we're going through right now. It's just, it's, unfortunate time when something like this happens, especially even more so now. But definitely a great big circle out there of support that the family can lean on. And obviously, a lot of us are probably going to be leaning on support from each other for the many weeks and months to come, depending on, how close a relationship we are and how much this will affect us and all that. So, again, condolences to Roy's family, and definitely hope that my fellow members of the family are still hanging on out there, as well as obviously here we are a couple weeks later, and I'm pretty sure still this is a death that's probably still affecting and still kind of hitting us hard at home a lot ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a moment of silence for our dear friend, the late Roy Byrd. Thank you, fellow Oakland Athletics fans. On that note, let's go ahead and go on with some modified versions of what we normally have done in the first half of the show. And obviously, kind of with the way that this format's been set up that we've been going with lately, there really isn't going to be a traditional first half or second half of the show, a seventh inning stretch, which is the midpoint break, or the infamous X-rated half, as we refer to it as. One thing that I am going to, experiment with this week, and you'll of course see with it on here, is at least try to get somewhat back into the normalcy of throwing up the imagery that we would use during the Twitch broadcasts for the opponent matchups, some of the breakdowns. It's probably going to be another couple of shows before I get back in where, as far as stuff with the standings goes, having the actual division standings in there, because I obviously got to go through stuff, see what teams have updated logos and all that, and update all that stuff as well. But at least as far as team matchups go, I'll go back getting the matchup logos up there, and at least for the time being, until I get the updated images of the team logos for the divisional standings when I do the division standing recaps. For the time being, until further notice, it will just be the AL logo for all the American League recaps and the NL logo for the for when we do the National League recaps. And we'll go ahead and wait till next week's show to look at what the playoff positioning looks like, because I'm still trying to really look over and see how this whole thing sets up. And all that stuff, just the whole craziness, this whole wacky 16-team format that they're going to go with for Wacky Baseball 2020, as I've dubbed the 2020 season. So sit back, relax, and we're going to go ahead and wind the clock back to a little over 2 weeks ago and look back at what the A's have done since the last time we came at you on Friday afternoon on August the 21st. Of course, we did a 2 o'clock show that day, recorded a 2 o'clock show that day, which is amongst all the stuff that will be thrown up onto the YouTube channel, along with this, obviously, once the internet's fully installed here finally at Dub 6, the new Dub 6 Studios. I got to remember to keep saying that, the new Dub 6 Studios, because there was a previous Dub 6 Studios. But to have all that stuff thrown up and ready to roll, and like I said, hopefully be back into the normal swing dig of things with the broadcast next week. But let's go ahead and rewind the clock back and get into the recap portions of our AFR broadcast as we begin the recap segments by looking back at what went down in a 3-game series that, of course, began on Friday, August the 21st at Rickey Henderson Field at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, in which your Oakland Athletics saw the Anaheim Angels come into town. Here's what went down in the first game of that 3-game set back on Friday, August the 21st. Oakland would draw first blood in this contest when they would score 3 runs in the bottom of the first inning. Anaheim would score their first run of the game in the top of the fifth, while Oakland would go ahead and answer back with 2 runs in the bottom of that fifth inning. Those would be the last 2 runs that the A's would score, but luckily for them, they would hold the Angels to scoring what would be their final 2 runs of the game in the top of the sixth inning. Both teams would not score anything else the rest of the way out, as Oakland would hold on to the lead in this one and pick up the W in the first game of this 3-game set by the final of 5-3. Oakland 5 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Anaheim 3 runs, 11 hits, and no errors. Mike Fiers picking up the win for the A's, improving to 3-1 on the year, while Heaney took the loss for the Angels. He falls to 1-2 on the year. Liam Hendriks picks up save number 9 on the season for your Oakland Athletics. Home runs in this contest, no homers on the Angels side, while over on the Athletics side of things, we had Marcus Semien going deep for the 4th time in 2020, and that was the only home run that was hit by the A's in this contest. As mentioned, Fiers got the start, 5 1/3 in this one, 7 hits given up, 3 runs, all 3 of those runs being earned, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts before giving away to Wendelken, McFarland, Soria, and Hendricks. So definitely always good to open up your series with a win, especially against an Angels team that kind of is still trying to really figure out their identity. Kind of can't really figure out if they're going to, be competitive this year, throw stuff away for next year. Obviously have people around the baseball world questioning why they still got Mike Trout down there if they're not going to be really, going forward with things. It's crazy to sit back and watch all the various amounts of money and talent that have gone through, that have been spent on down there for that team, and just always see this, especially even more so in the shortened season, is just crazy. And just A's got to take advantage of beating up on teams like that at that point in time. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look now at what went down in the second game of this 3-game set between Oakland and Anaheim at the Coliseum on Saturday, August the 22nd. The Angels would score first in this contest when they would score the first run of the game in the top of the first inning. They would also score 3 runs in the top of the second inning before the Oakland Athletics would finally score their first run of the contest in the bottom of that second inning. The A's would get a single run in the bottom of the fourth and a single run in the bottom of the fifth, but unfortunately would not be able to score anything the rest of the way out, and which would suck because they basically held the Angels scoreless from the third inning on, but just really couldn't muster anything offensively, put anything together to get anything across after they scored their last run in the bottom of the fifth. So the A's dropped the middle game of this 3-game series by the final of 4-3. Anaheim 4 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Oakland 3 runs, 6 hits, and 3 errors in this contest. Aiden Rise picking up the win for the Angels, improving to 1-1 on the year. Chris Bassett took the loss for the A's in this one, falling to 2-1 on the year. Butchery picking up his 3rd save of the year for the Angels in this one. Home runs in this contest, you didn't have any homers for the Angels in this one, while over on the A's side of things, we had Matt Chapman going deep for the 9th time in 2020. Pitching-wise, of course, you had Bassett at the start. He went 5 2/3, 6 hits, giving up 4 runs, 2 of those runs being earned, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Just unfortunately had the defense boot the ball behind him during the course of his time out there. You also had Trefino, McFarland, and Petit pitch out the final 3 1/3 inning of this contest. So it happens. We've seen this happen before. We're kind of, opportunity where you think, basically should have been a winnable game. And unfortunately, the A's played themselves into a trap game on this Saturday at the Coliseum. It happens. It sucks. It's unfortunate. We hate it. You already know people like myself and Boss, will get semi-infuriated when games like this happens. Kind of causes some of y'all out there to question our sanity because of some of the posts we'll throw up on either Facebook or Twitter because of how we're feeling in the heat of the moment. And, it's not that we're insane. It's not that we're crazy. Well, maybe we are. We just don't realize it. But I'm just messing with y'all. But it's just, you got to remember how passionate myself, Boss, and a lot of y'all out there as well. When we see games like that happen, especially winnable games against teams that are struggling like this, it's going to be upsetting. And it's going to suck. And it's infuriating. But you also got to realize and know that you have the opportunity with the rubber match coming at you the next day. We have the opportunity to bounce back you have the opportunity to exact a little bit of revenge on your opponent from down south. So let's go ahead and find out right here, right now, if the A's were able to get back at the Angels and get a W and secure the series win in this matchup right here, which of course went down on Sunday, August the 23rd at the Coliseum. A's would score first in that Sunday afternoon affair when they would plant the first 2 runs of the game in the bottom of the second inning. The Angels, though, would take a lead with a 3-run spot in the top of the third and then would add on to that lead with a single run in the top of the fifth. Unfortunately for them, they wouldn't score anything else after that, and also unfortunately for them besides that, the A's would. The A's would score 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning, and then ultimately in extra innings would take 1 run and walk off to win in extras on the Angels by the final of 5-4. Oakland 5 runs, 9 hits, 1 error. Anaheim 4 runs, 9 hits, and 1 error in this contest. Hendricks picking up the win for the A's. He improves to 2-0 on the year. Butcher taking the loss for the Angels. He falls to 1-1 on the season. Home runs in this contest. Over on the Angels side, you had Shohei Ohtani hitting his 5th homer of the year. No A's going deep in this contest, so a rare A's victory without a homer being hit, but shockingly in this one. Frankie Montas got the start for the A's originally in this one. 4 2/3, 7 hits given up, 4 runs, all 4 of those runs being earned. 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and he did give up a long ball before Wendelken, Diekman, Soria, and Hendricks came in to finish off things in this contest. So definitely great to see the A's take 2 out of 3 against the Angels. If I remember correctly, looking forward to things, just don't want to get a little too far ahead of myself. I believe that if I remember correctly, that's the last time in 2020 that we will be playing the Angels. And barring any sort of miraculous, crazy shenanigans with the division, we're not going to see the Angels again until 2021. So it was great. Don't have to worry about Trout anymore. Don't got to worry about Ohtani taking us deep. Don't got to worry about Anthony Rendon teeing off on us. Would say we don't have to worry about Tommy La Stella killing us, but we don't have to worry about that because now Tommy La Stella is on our team, murdering the other teams in the division. So just, a team that obviously, even though we showed consistency for the most part in beating them, always seems to be a scrappy bunch playing against us that always would seem to draw out their matchups with us, and even more so in this shortened 2020 season. But definitely glad that we don't have to worry about seeing them anymore. Now, just if they can be nice and helpful and knock off teams chasing after us like the Astros and the Rangers, and just help us out a little bit by keeping the other teams in the division at bay, so that way we can run away with the AL West in this shortened 2020 season. So definitely great to see the A's win 2 out of 3 there, and it wrapped up what was basically a 4-1 homestand for the A's, as they of course had a 2-game series, or that was the back end of a 2-2 against the Diamondbacks to close that out, and they would of course get set to head out on the road for a matchup in Texas with the Rangers at their new ballpark down there in Arlington. And we will take a look at what went down in that series when we come back at you following this brief little break here on show number 272, which of course is dedicated to our friend Roy Byrd. Don't go anywhere. A's Fan Radio will be right back at you in a bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue on down the road things here with show number 272, dedicated to our friend Roy Byrd of A's Fan Radio. It is legally 5150 Corporal Rifle Asshole doing our first broadcast from the new Dub 6 studios located up in the Eastmont Hills overlooking the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. I'm literally staring right at the beautiful old lady right here in front of me, about a mile and a half down the road from where I'm at. So definitely going to be a nice view to have while doing the show. I mean, trust me, I'd rather be at La Estrelita doing this with y'all there in person or tuned in on Twitch and being able to interact with y'all. But until we're able to get back to doing that at some point in the future, this will be satisfactory as a fill-in. and definitely will be nice to have at some point. Don't know when it's going to happen, but it is inevitable at some point it will happen. Something that we haven't done on this show in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and that's actually have the dynamic duo be in studio together at some point. Obviously, got to work it in and see what boss's schedule and what things look like as far as that doing it, but definitely got to take advantage of this setup and have the dynamic duo together with the Coliseum as a backdrop for a show. So stay tuned for whenever that's going to go down at some point. On that note, let's go ahead and continue forward with our game recaps here on this edition of A's Fan Radio. When we, of course, left off right before we went to break, we had just gotten done recapping the three-game series with the Angels at the Coliseum. After that, of course, the A's got set to go out on a Texas two-step on a road trip. Of course, it would see them play 4 games against the Houston. Can't even get these team names right now. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. See the A's play a 4-game series in Arlington against the Texas Rangers at the new Globe Life Stadium, which basically looks like a feed barn on HGH from the outside, and then semi looks like a genetically altered engineered clone of Minute Maid Park where the Astros played. And of course, that's the other team that they would play as part of this little road trip through Texas, as they would play a weekend series in Houston against the Astros. We, of course, will begin things off first with that 4-game series in Arlington against the Texas Rangers. And here's what went down in the first game of that 4-game series on Monday, August the 24th. Oakland would open up the scoring when they would score the first run of the game in the top of the first inning. That lead would be short-lived, though, as the Texas Rangers would drop a 2 spot immediately on the A's in the bottom of that first inning. The A's, of course, would tie up the game in the top half of the second inning, only to see that tie be short-lived as the Rangers would regain the lead with a single run in the bottom of that second inning. Neither team would score anything the rest of the way out, and that would basically end up being the finale. The game was set in stone basically after the first 2 innings of this one, as the A's fall in the opener of this series by the final of 3-2. Texas 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors. Oakland 2 runs, 8 hits, and no errors in this contest. Lance Lynn picking up the win for the Rangers in this one, improving to 4-1 or 4-0 on the year. Jesus Luzardo getting tagged for the loss for the A's in this one, falling to 2-1 on the season. Montero picking up his 6th save of the year for the Rangers in this contest. Home runs in this one on the A's side, the lone one coming off the bat is Stephen Piscotty, his 5th of the year. That, of course, was the homer that tied up the game at 2 early in the second inning. Over on the Rangers side of things, you had Kenner Fafé hit his first homer of the year for Texas in this one. Luzardo, of course, got the start. He went 6 2/3, 7 hits, given up 3 runs, all 3 of those runs being earned, 2 walks. He punched out 7, did give up 1 long ball in the contest before Petit closed out the final inning in a third in this one. So kind of a little rare pitcher's duel, which is not something that we were accustomed to prior to this year when it involved the A's, the Rangers, and a game in Arlington. But we have to remember that that's at the old ballpark. That was at the ballpark in Arlington, Globe Life Field, or whatever all the various names that park had. After it opened in the early 90s, and stadium that a lot of people even now still argue, was it really the need there for the Rangers to build a new ballpark? And you can kind of say, I guess, to some extent, the argument was there, given of how hot it gets down there in Texas. But the reality is, maybe they could have just built a retractable roof over the current stadium. I don't know. I'm not involved in how things work down there. It's not my problem. I don't live in Texas. That's on those in Arlington to deal with on all that. But it had the early makings at the get-go of you thinking that possibly maybe this is going to play like the old ballpark, and it's going to be another classic, back and forth slugfest between these longtime AL West rivals. And ended up not being the case. As, of course, I mentioned, the game was basically decided after the first 2 innings. And just it happens like that sometimes. So let's go ahead and take a look now and see how the A's would respond, and if they were going to be able to bounce back after that little matchup the previous night in the second game of this 4-game series, which, of course, went down on Tuesday, August the 25th. The Rangers would score first in this contest when they would score the first run of the game in the bottom of the second inning. The A's, though, would answer right back with 1 run in the top of the third, 2 runs in the top of the fourth, and 2 runs in the top of the fifth before the Rangers would finally score 2 runs in the bottom of the fifth inning. Unfortunately for Texas, those would be the last 2 runs they would score the rest of the way out in this contest. Oakland, on the other hand, would drop what would be their final 5 runs of the game in the top of the seventh, as this would end up looking kind of like one of those traditional one team blows out the other team matchups that we got accustomed to at the old stadium down there in Arlington, as your Oakland Athletics defeat the Texas Rangers with some kaiju mode in this one by the final of 10-3. Oakland 10 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Texas 3 runs, 8 hits, and no errors in this contest. Shamania picking up the W as he improves to 2-2 on the year. Gibson getting tagged with the L for the Rangers in this one. He falls to 1-3 on the season. Home runs in this contest, you had Matt Olson going deep for the 10th time this year, and the Sauce, Marcus Semien, going deep for the 5th time this season. In this one, no home runs for the Rangers in this contest. Manaea, of course, as mentioned, getting the W. 5 innings, 6 hits, giving up 3 runs. Only one of those runs were earned, though, because of the error that the A's made in this game. The one error they made in the game. No walks, 3 strikeouts before giving away to McFarland, Trevito, and Weems over the final 4 frames. So definitely a great way to respond back, especially after the night before. Kind of nice to see a little bit of that traditional kind of classic, basically stomp the Rangers' head in down there. And, you kind of see that obviously this, stadium, for the most part, the ball doesn't carry and fly out like it did over there in the old ballpark. And a lot of that had to do, obviously, with the way that the old stadium was designed, some of the alterations they made to it over the years. And even with those alterations, you still had to factor in the heat that was constantly there. And the heat's obviously going to make the ball travel a lot farther. We've seen that, of course, that effect happen here at the Coliseum, a stadium that obviously is notorious for, not having the ball carry a lot at night because of the marine layer, unless it's warm as hell. And we obviously know how the ball plays during the day, and that it carries even more during the day when it's warmer and hotter out there. So obviously you're seeing now that that effect is starting to come in with the roof being there, and with it seeming like they've had the roof closed the majority of the time down there, and a lot of the teams have seemed to be playing with their roofs closed because of the pandemic. You're seeing, at least from this point in time, in this perspective, not a lot of what you saw in previous matchups between the A's and the Rangers down there. Now, will that continue to be the case going forward when the A's and the Rangers match up, and when, of course, the Rangers play against other teams that are going forward? Who knows? Only time will tell. And obviously, we'll have to see a lot more of what things are going to look like when they have the roof open a lot more down there. But it will be interesting to see if this is how things will continue to play out, or if things are going to obviously be a little bit different. On that note, let's go ahead and move forward now and see what went down in the third game of this 4-game series on Wednesday, August the 26th. Texas would score first in this contest when they would score 1 run in the bottom of the third inning. Unfortunately, though, for them, that'd be the only run that they would score the rest of the way out in this one. Oakland, on the other hand, they would just need a 2-run spot in the top of the 6th and a 1-run spot in the bottom of the 8th to clinch the W in this contest, getting the victory in this one by the final of 3-1. Oakland 3 runs, 5 hits, 1 error. Texas 1 run, 3 hits, and 3 errors in this contest. Mike Fiers picking up a W on Fiers Day, improving to 4-1. As Allard got the loss for the Rangers, he falls to 0-3 on the season. Liam Hendricks picking up save at number 10 on the 2020 campaign. Home runs in this one, nobody going deep for the A's in this one, and nobody going deep for the Rangers in this one. So again, you're not seeing as many long balls getting hit out between these two teams as you did in matchups in the past. So you're starting to see, obviously, this new stadium factor in the stuff. But again, let's don't not get too much deeper into that. We've already hit on that. But again, we'll see what happens with that going forward. Fiers, of course, got the start in W in this one, 6 innings, 3 hits, giving up 1 run. That 1 run was not earned because of the 1 error they made. 2 walks, 7 strikeouts in this contest before giving away to Soria, Diekman, and Hendricks. So definitely great to see the A's take 2 out of 3 so far in this contest. They had a fourth game that they originally were supposed to play, but that game ended up being postponed. As obviously we had yet another social injustice incident go down. Another black man being shot in the back multiple times by police officers, which caused basically a lot of teams around, not just baseball but other sports as well, to basically decide to not play that day. So the final game of that series, of course, ended up being postponed and will be made up as part of a doubleheader on September the 12th. So basically, pretty much that series kind of paused for the time being, with the A's holding a 2-1 advantage over the Rangers in that, and we'll have to see and wait and see what happens with that doubleheader on the 12th to find out if ultimately the A's end up winning this series, or if the Rangers are able to take what would have been that final game, and split that 4-game set with the A's. So obviously you'll have to stay tuned for what goes down with that. 2 shows from now, that would be show number 275, that you, of course, will get an update on what goes down with the last game of that series. We're going to go ahead and take our next break of this afternoon's broadcast. When we come back, we will go ahead and take a look and see what went down with the, I think I told y'all that it was a 3-game series with the Astros. My bad, y'all. It was a 4-game series that was scheduled with Houston. We will take a look and see what went down in that matchup. We come right back at you here in a bit on show number 272 of A's Fan Radio, which, of course, is dedicated to our longtime friend, Roy Byrd. We'll be right back at you. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue on down the road here with show number 272 of A's Fan Radio, dedicated, of course, to our friend Roy Byrd. It is the Legally 5150 Corporate Right Field Asshole checking in with you in the first broadcast from the new Dub 6 studios located up in the Eastmont Hills overlooking the Oakland Coliseum. Let's go ahead now and continue on with the recap of the last 2 weeks' worth of Oakland Athletics baseball. We, of course, previously had looked at matchups with the Anaheim Angels, a 4-game series with the Texas Rangers, and, of course, which the final game of the series was postponed because of social justice protest. And, of course, that leaves us with the next set of games that we'll be looking at that went down for your A's during this 2-week period in between our last show on the 21st and this show, as the A's got ready for a 4-game series in Houston against the Houston Astros. The first game of that 4-game series set to have gone down on Friday, August the 28th, which was basically Jackie Robinson Day around baseball for this weird, wacky baseball 2020 season. Game ended up not happening as the Astros ended up protesting, taking their turn in the social justice protests that have been going on as a result of, again, another round of unfortunate circumstances happening that shouldn't have happened. Astros, the only reason why they didn't do it on Thursday was because they had to cancel their game against the Angels because of a hurricane that was threatening the area. So that's why the Astros did it on Friday. The A's had no issues with that and full agreement with that. The teams basically took the field for the national anthem in their Jackie Robinson uniforms, and then promptly after the field walked off, let them know what was going on, and basically rescheduled the game as part of a doubleheader the following day on the 29th. The first, that game, of course, would be the second game of that doubleheader. So we'll take a look at the first game of that doubleheader, which, of course, was the contest that was originally scheduled for Saturday, August the 29th. Houston would jump out to an early 3-0 lead in this contest when they would score 3 runs on the A's in the bottom of the first inning. Both teams would each score 1 run apiece in the 4th inning, and the A's would score a single run in the top of the 6th inning. But unfortunately, that wouldn't be enough to get them tied up or get the W in this one, as the first game of this doubleheader ended after 7 innings. Of course, as a reminder to all of you that haven't been really paying attention to stuff, because of them trying to make sure that team players, personnel, and just people in general not at the ballparks for extended periods of time. The doubleheaders in 2020 are all 7-inning games. So this game, of course, ended after the 7th inning because of it being the first game of a doubleheader, and the A's fell in this contest by the final of 4-2. to 2. Houston 4 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Oakland 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors in this contest. McCullers picking up the win for Houston. He improves to 3-2 on the year, while Chris Bassick takes the loss for your Oakland Athletics. He falls to 2-2 on the season. You had Presley picking up his 5th save of the year for the Astros in this contest. Home runs in this one, none on the A's side. Over on the Astros side, you had Tucker hitting his 6th homer of the year and Josh Reddick going deep for the second time in 2020. Bassett, he went 3 innings in this contest, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, all 4 of those runs being earned, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and he surrendered 2 long balls during his 3 innings on the mound. Trevino and Petit pitched the final 3 innings of this contest. So not a good look here in the first one. This is obviously the first time this season where your Oakland Athletics had to partake in this crazy, wacky doubleheader format. And, obviously we all know it's a team that's kind of built more for, if need be, winning and doing stuff in the later innings of games. I kind of get annoyed with that. I'd like to see them, put the nail in the coffin and do stuff earlier in the games instead of late in the games. And you obviously kind of saw a little bit of effect and some worry out of this as far as this format goes. And a little bit of wonder if that would be carried over into the next game, or if the Oakland Athletics would be able to turn it around and be able to snatch the back end of this double dip on that Saturday, the Saturday the 29th, as of course the second game of that doubleheader is of course the game that was played to be made up for the game on Friday that the Astros protested. Here's what went down in Game 2 on that Saturday at Minute Maid Park. Oakland would score first in this contest when they would score the very first run of the game in the top of the first inning. That 1-run lead would be short-lived, though, as the Astros would answer back with 3 runs in the bottom of that first inning, and then would tack on 2 runs in the bottom of the second inning. The A's would score 1 run in the bottom of the fourth, 1 run in the top of the fourth, and 1 run in the top of the fifth. With the Astros scoring would be their final run in the bottom of the sixth. Oakland wasn't able to do really much of anything after that 5th inning as they dropped the second game and both ends of the doubleheader, losing this one by the final of 6-3. Houston 6 runs, 11 hits, no errors. Oakland 3 runs, 6 hits, and no errors in this contest. Zach Greinke picking up the win for Houston as he improves to 2-0 on the year. Frankie Montas getting tagged with the loss for the A's. He falls to 2-3 on the season. Presley picks up save at number 6 for the Astros in 2020. Home runs in this contest, Razor Ramon Laureano continuing to be a thorn in his former team's side. He picks up his 4th ding-dong doodle of the 2020 campaign. You also had Matt Chapman going deep for the 10th time in 2020. Over on the Astros side, their lone home run coming off the bat of Springer's 5th bomb of the 2020 campaign. Pitching-wise in this one, as mentioned, Frankie Montas getting the start. He went 3 in the 3rd, 6 hits given up, 5 runs, all 5 of those runs being earned. 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 1 long ball given up before Wendelken, McFarland, and Soria came in to pitch out the remainder of this contest. So definitely not good to lose both games in this doubleheader, and especially against an Astros team that's nipping at your heels pretty much at this point, a team that you want to try to finally put out of to pasture, finally wrangle away that death grip that they've had on the AL West for the last 2-3 seasons. A death grip that some people really want to contest and wonder about at this point if it was done under legitimate reasons or not, given everything that's been, discovered about what happened in 2017 and, the following season. So not a good thing to be sitting there and dropping games to a team that after this point in time and getting into things today, right here, right now, is, 2 games back of you as we, look at things when we get to looking at the standings here in this point in time. So you got to make sure in situations like this going forward that you're not dropping games like this when you have to play these doubleheaders. And it definitely can't be against the team that's chasing you in your rearview mirror for the division, and especially with the way this season is and how quickly we're seeing the number of games go away at this point. Just you got to make sure you don't put yourself in a position that's going to backfire on you. And Unfortunately for your Oakland Athletics, that would be the last game they would play for a week, as they would find out later that night that a member of the team, it was later revealed, of course, to be pitcher Daniel Migden, tested positive for COVID-19. So, of course, the finale of that four-game series with the Astros has been postponed. It will be made up on September the 6th, September the 8th, when the Astros come to town. So we will go ahead and recap that game when we do show number 273 next week. And obviously, as a result of all that going on as well, the series with the Seattle Mariners was postponed in its entirety. And of course, we'll be just to pull up here and look at things ahead on the schedule, just to make sure I'm not getting the dates mixed up and everything with you. The two games on the 1st and the 2nd of September. So earlier this week, Tuesday, September 1st game and Wednesday, September 2nd games will be made up as part of a doubleheader on Monday, September the 14th. And the game that would have been the finale of that three-game series, which of course was scheduled to have been played yesterday, will be made up as part of a doubleheader up at, I believe, I'm trying to look here. I think they're going to have to make that up as a doubleheader here in Oakland on the 26th. Obviously, for that first game of that doubleheader, Seattle will be the home team for that game. So the A's basically getting knocked out of commission for a little over a week. They'll be retaking the field finally tonight against the San Diego Padres, but just, kind of crazy how up to this point, the A's were, the guys pretty much, Melvin, others, players on the team and members of the front office are stressing that, Daniel didn't break protocol. None of them have broken protocol and have been pretty much holding it to that point. And they were one of the teams that were being praised for sticking to that. Others out there for obvious reasons because of certain things that Migden has been mentioned to have associated with could feel a little bit differently. It is what it is in regards to that matter, and we feel some things about that, but I'm just not in the mood to get into any more discussions in regards to that. But bottom line is, unfortunately, it happened, and now you see the A's in a position where they're going to have at least 3-4 doubleheaders before the season's over with to make up some time. So it sucks. It's unfortunate to see it happen, but it is what it is, and you got to just stick through it and play out with it. This was something that we all knew could be a possibility at some point during this 2020 season. And, we've seen it happen with other teams around Major League Baseball. We saw it happen with the Marlins. We saw it happen with the Cardinals. We saw the Mets and the Yankees have to deal with a brief scare at one point. So it's obviously the opportunity and the possibilities have been there. And unfortunately, the A's had to deal with it. So we'll find out, obviously, beginning tonight, how much this is going to affect this team, or if it's going to be really not that much of an impact going forward. We're going to go ahead and take our next break of the afternoon. When we come back, we will preview what the A's have on tap going into next week with their matchups against the Padres and the Houston Astros in Oakland. We will also take a look at the standings as of today before other game action goes on. And of course, after we take a look at those standings, you will hear my final thoughts of the afternoon before we wrap things up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back at you here on show number 272 of A's Fan Radio, dedicated to Roy Byrd. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue on with things here on show number 272 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. This afternoon's broadcast, of course, dedicated to our good friend Roy Byrd, who passed away the week of the Angels series back around August the 21st. Let's go ahead and take a look now to what the Oakland A's have on tap this upcoming week. As far as upcoming matchups go, there's a lot going on, including a 3-game series against a team that has jokingly become known, well, not jokingly, but has become known for their late inning heroics as well. And obviously, an AL West opponent that the A's are trying to deal the knockout blow to finally, but have seen an extra game added to that matchup. And let's go and take a look ahead to what that is right now. The A's, of course, starting today, have a 3-game series against Slam Diego, the San Diego Padres. Game one of that series, of course, starting tonight at 6:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Game two going down tomorrow, Saturday the 5th at 1:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, of course, the finale of that three-game series going down on Sunday the 6th at 1:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Definitely should be a great matchup of two teams that are trying to vie for postseason spots in 2020. San Diego, of course, as mentioned, has a lot of power in that lineup that has caused them to have late inning heroics, or a lot of game-winning grand slams. Obviously, everyone's familiar with what Fernando Tatis Jr. has been doing this season. We're all, of course, obviously familiar with Manny Machado and how much he's loved for however you want to look at it that way amongst the Oakland A's fan base for antics back in the day with the Baltimore Orioles, and will definitely be a great series. And just unfortunate that this pandemic's not allowing fans to be able to be in the ballparks. Otherwise, it would definitely have a playoff type atmosphere, I feel, to it if we were to be out there. So definitely keep your eyes open and watch that series going down this weekend. And of course, that will be followed by what was originally a 4-game series. It's now a 5-game series against the Houston Astros. Game one of that series, of course, going down on Monday the 7th at 6:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Game two, which of course will be the first game of that double dip on Tuesday, will be around approximately 3:10 in the afternoon. And the second game of that doubleheader, of course, will start approximately a half hour to an hour after the first game ends. Game three on Wednesday will be at 6:10 p.m. And of course, the finale of that 5-game series will be at 12:40 in the afternoon on Thursday the 10th. Of course, you can catch those games on CSN, NBC Sports California. You can listen to the games, of course, on 960 AM, 1140 up there in the Sacramento area, all the other various members of the Oakland Athletics Radio Network. And, of course, those of you that are within the broadcast range online can, of course, listen into the games and all the other extended content over on iHeartRadio by tuning in on A's Cast, which, of course, you can get more info for by visiting athletics.com/A's Cast. So definitely will be interesting playoff-like matchups coming your way at the Oakland Coliseum over the course of this next week. On that note, we're going to go ahead and take what will be our final break of this broadcast. When we come back, we will take a look at the current standings around Major League Baseball, and I will go ahead and lead us on out with my final thoughts. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of show number 272 of this edition of A's Fan Radio will be coming right back at you in a bit. Hey, y'all ready to wrap this up? I pretty much am. Let's go ahead and get set to close shop down here as the final segment of this afternoon's broadcast comes at you right here, right now. Let's go ahead and get ready to take a look at the current standings around Major League Baseball as we get ready to do the final segment here on this broadcast that's, of course, dedicated to our longtime friend Roy Byrd. It is the final segment of show number 272 of A's Fan Radio. We'll go ahead and start off first with the American League portion of the standings. And of course, as always, when we do things, we start off in the AL because the AL is the league that the A's play in. And of course, we usually start off with the division that the Oakland A's play in. And that is, of course, the AL West. We're right here, right now, even after the whole week off because of the coronavirus issues that Daniel Migden had. The Oakland Athletics are still in the top spot at 22-12. The Houston Astros are on their tail, though, 2 games back at 21-15. The Seattle Mariners are 15-22, 8.5 back. Texas is 13-23, 10 games back. And the Anaheim Angels, of course, are in the last place spot at 13-25, 11 games back. Looking around at the rest of the American League over in the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays are now in the top spot with a record of 26-12. The New York Yankees, who have kind of hit a little bit of a rut patch, are currently tied for second place with the Toronto/Buffalo Blue Jays at 20-16. They're both 5 games back of Tampa Bay at this point in time. Baltimore is in the 4th spot at 11-20, 9 games back, and 14 games back in last place at 12-26. are the Boston Red Sox. Finally, to wrap things up as far as the standings in the AL with the Central standings, we have the Cleveland Indians on top right now with a record of 23-14. The Chicago White Sox are in the second spot with a record of 23-15, a half game back. Excuse me. We have the Minnesota Twins in the third spot at 23-6. They're one game back. The Detroit Tigers are in the fourth spot at 17-18, 5 games back. And in the last place spot currently are the Kansas City Royals at 14-24, 9.5 back. Of course, as I mentioned, starting with next week's show, we'll take more of a look into what the postseason seeding is looking like. With, of course, is obviously you got 16 teams going into the postseason this year versus the way the format's been the last couple of years. 8 teams from the American League, 8 teams, of course, from the National League. And speaking of the National League, let's go ahead and take a look at what the standings currently are over in the NL. Starting off first with the NL East, we have the Atlanta Braves on top at 22-14. The Philadelphia Phillies are in second place right now at 2.5 games back at 18-15. The Miami Marlins are in the third spot at 500 at 16-16, 4 games back. The New York Mets are at 17-21, they're 6 games back. And the Washington Nationals are in the last place spot at 12-23, they're 9.5 back. Over in the NL Central, you have the Chicago Cubs currently who are 22-15 sitting on top. You have the St. Louis Cardinals in the second spot, currently 14-14, 3.5 back. The Milwaukee Brewers in the third spot at 17-19, 4.5 back. The Cincinnati Reds are 16-21, 6 games back. And in the last place spot, 11-24, 10 games back, are the Pittsburgh Pirates. Finally, over in what I like to call the Wild Wild NL West, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers in the top spot at 29-10. The Slam Diego Padres are in the second spot at 23-16, 6 games back. The Colorado Rockies are 18-19, they're 10 games back. The San Francisco, a.k.a. Suckfest Giants, are 18-20, 10.5 back. And in last place spot currently are the Arizona Diamondbacks at 14-24, 14.5 back. And that wraps up things for the NL standings and for this edition of the show, the entire standings currently at this point in time around Major League Baseball. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, don't really got much to say for a final thought for this afternoon's show other than for be safe, take care, don't do anything stupid, and of course, be sure to check in with us for next week's edition of the show because Dave Covell is going to be stopping by, so definitely be sure to jump on to our Twitter and Facebook pages to keep your eyes open for the post asking for your questions for Dave, so that way we can shoot them to him as well. And of course, as always, be sure to check us out for the latest information on A's Fan Radio. Be sure to check us out at afanradio.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/A'sFanRadio. Follow us on Twitter at A's/let me say that again. Follow us on Twitter at A's_fan_radio. And be sure to also check us out on Twitch when we get back to doing our live broadcasts on there at twitch.tv/A'sFanRadio. Or you can also check out the show broadcasts that we'll be uploading to the YouTube channel. And of course, next week's show will be our next broadcast, show number 273, going down next Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, will feature episode 4 of Kicking It with Cobble. And on that note, the views and opinions of our cast, our guests, and our listeners are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the Oakland Athletics or Major League Baseball. Good afternoon, Walter Haas. Good afternoon, King Al. Good afternoon, Chesty Puller, wherever you may be. And good afternoon, Di. I love you and miss you. Take care and continue to help guide this team to victory. All of you all out there, take care. Be safe out in this crazy world that we're living with. And be sure to come back and check in with us for next week's edition of the show. And definitely check out that interview that we will have with Dave Covell. Until then, good afternoon, Oakland and beyond. And as always, be sure to stay Oakland, my friends.